Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. NASA and SpaceX successfully launched a long-awaited crewed mission to bring back US astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, who have been stranded on the International Space Station for 9 months now. A Falcon 9 rocket with a Crew-10 capsule fixed to its top blasted off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida at 7:03 p.m. local time, carrying a 4-member team bound for orbital outpost. The 4 astronauts, NASA's McClain and Nichole Ayers, JAXA astronauts Takya Onishi and Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov are heading to the International Space Station. All eyes are on this crucial mission, which is expected to bring back both the astronauts on the 18th of March, is what we are learning. They've been stranded there for a very, very long time. In fact, the entire world was worried about their safety, and now it seems with NASA and SpaceX coming together, they will touch ground in just a few days. We'll talk about this and a lot more. Lieutenant General A.K. Butch, DG of the Indian Space Association, is joining us on the show. Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran, CEO of Q-Gates Technology, also with us on the show. Last but by no means the least, Group Captain V.N. Jha, Senior Scientist, also joins us on the broadcast to talk more about this. Mr. V.N. Jha, I'll begin with you, sir. Sir, a Falcon 9 rocket with a Crew-10 capsule is fixed to its top and it blasted off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And in fact, Sunita Williams' return is something that the entire world, specifically India, has also been waiting for, since she is of Indian origin. Now, everybody's obviously going to keep their fingers crossed, Group Captain Jha, when it comes to the safety and security of this return. In your opinion, how do you look at, an episode where astronauts could actually get stuck on the international space stations, and why haven't there any provisions for such an eventuality in the past?
Very good evening, Vineet. I thank you as well as NewsX for having taken up this subject of space science, which is of interest to millions and millions of viewers here in India itself, living vast number abroad. Coming back to your question, yes, it was a bit of difficult times for most of the space onlookers when we found that Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore are stuck there. But it happens in the space ventures, space explorations. Many things which are not scheduled, which do crop in once in a while. It does happen. There is nothing abnormal into it. However, there is a thumb rule in space launches. Human space missions, there is absolute thumb rule in the sense that if there is any problem in the launch system or the entire living system, habitat system, which is going to the space, even the slightest of the doubt, postpone the launch, because you can always reschedule the launch, but you cannot do away with the problems what crop in there. And that is what was there with the Boeing Starliner when it had happened. They knew very well, even before launch of this mission, that there was a helium leak from one or two of the thrusters. And as it went up there in the space, it aggravated, and almost, I think, 4 or 5 of the thrusters were knocked off, some of which did come back later on. But these unpredictabilities are there. It is a rocket science. You can't deny about it. You can do nothing about it. These things do happen. However, when the launch was postponed 3 days back, we were all slightly concerned. But I knew the reason given by the SpaceX was that the giant arm at the launch pad that had developed some hydraulic problems. That was the reason for it to be postponed. So we knew very much that it will be fixed up in no time, and that is how we have seen. Today morning, early morning, I was glued to my laptop, watching the live show. It has gone all well. It has right now it is orbiting, heading towards the International Space Station. It should be docking up tomorrow sometime early morning. around the same 26 hours or so of the time that they usually take in docking. I'm talking of the NASA system. Russian systems, they dock afterward of the entire system. So they are able to cut down their travel time to about 5 to 5.5 hours. That is the beauty of the Zvezda system that they have. So it's all going well. Everything should go well. There is a two docking port right now, NASA docking port, which is available for the docking. So once this Crew-10 goes there, people will transfer. Crew-9 would have already been serviced. You know, Crew-9 had gone on, I think, 28th or 29th September last year with Nichole and Govinov. There was experimentation and tests for them there in that on board. So they will be now coming back along with Sunita and Butch. That Crew-9 system, Crew Dragon, would have been already serviced. Everything would have been fine. They will all come back most probably on that Crew-9. Crew-10 will remain there for the next set of crew to come back for the rotation to the Earth. So it's all going well. I don't foresee any problem because this Dragon system of SpaceX is absolutely 100% safe. It is fully automated in the sense that you have nothing to do to handle it. But of course, last minute, you know, there's a feedback system. In that loop, crew is there should anything go wrong. But till now, nothing has gone wrong in many of the sorties that they have had there. So I wish them a very happy docking, the present set of crew who have gone there. And the next crew will be, I think, possibly they are scheduled to leave ISS on 18th. So either on 18th itself or 19th, they will be coming back. So I wish them all the best of this. But all these things happen even when we are talking right now. Few things may do crop in once in a while, and there's a huge amount of training that goes into the crew flying that a particular space shuttle or space habitat that they are taking it from here. So I wish them all the best. Everything should go absolutely fine. One more thing I would like to tell you, that even though Sunita and Butch are stuck there, they are not jobless. There is a huge number of test benches and experimentation which is going on in the International Space Station. And these two are right now spending all their time to add to the crew there in performing those tests and trials, and the amount of experimentations are there. So that is going on. They are absolutely busy. They have to keep fit. And for that, usually about 1.5 to 2 hours of the daily exercise on the treadmill for both bone and muscles not to be wasted. That usually happens. So they are going on there. They are in good spirits. And I hope that everything goes well. They should be here back on 18th or 9th, splashing down into the other Gulf of Mexico or somewhere around by.
All right, General Bhatt, in fact, this was supposed to be an 8-day mission, which has been prolonged to over a few months now. And of course, you know, the Boeing Starliner spacecraft was also to be blamed for all of this. How do you look at this situation, and what is there for the space industry to learn from here?
Of course, it has been very unusual. A mission of 8 days has nearly taken 9 months. And of course, also the Starliner, which was supposed to bring the two astronauts back, did come back safely. Of course, NASA did not take the risk of putting the astronauts into that after they had realized there was a problem of helium leak and the problem of these thrusters. Well, such incidents are unusual. But the unpredictability which is there in space, it happens, of course, once in 100, but it did happen. But what is most important is that these astronauts will be coming back, and we will see them on Mother Earth definitely by 19th. Today, the world has two different systems of spacecraft carriers. when the Starliner has not worked, the Dragon, which is again a private company, international private company, is providing this facility. And before that, of course, the Russian one was there and many others. But what is the lesson for the future? Future, when we plan to be sending humans to moon, not only for one mission, but to stay there. And even beyond that, as the plans are in the space community for human beings to go to Mars, much more of these spacecraft carriers will be there. It will become like, I'm very sure, somewhere in the future, like Uber rides, where people will be moving into international space stations, which will be more than one, and also even to Moon and Mars. But the lesson is there that the space where risk repair cannot be done in situ, which is one of the technologies which everybody is looking for. These methods, these crew liners, which will have to be made much more in number, and a much more uh, flexibility will have to be obtained, that a delay which is unusual, like which has happened this time, does not take place. But once more, it definitely brings into limelight that sending humans to space is technologically and scientifically a difficult activity
Challenge.
which will require much more focus for it to become smooth and seamless.
All right, fair enough. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, learnings from this episode, if there are any, India is also on an aspirational path to expand its horizons when it comes to space. What's the learning here for India?
See, there are, in fact, there are a lot of pluses and minuses, though it was not a planned one. Because, nobody will make such a plan to put human beings in space for such a long time. It just happened as a matter of coincidence. And this is something that, the kind of learnings that, critical learnings that we will get for the effect of prolonged exposure of space conditions to humans is going to be unraveled. I don't know there will be another chance for us to, study so much, because having understood this much, next missions will not be planned with adequate redundancies. The kind of, we always in military, we ensure that there are no single point of failures, any mission on land, be it only in space. So for India, for the Gaganyaan mission, we will need to build up our backup redundancies at the equipment level, at the sensor level, at the people level, at every possible, the forecasting of risks should be as infinite as possible, and build redundancies so that we don't land up into situations like this. Because gone are the days when 1,000 people can get killed and then we can just say, oh, sorry. Today, even if one life is lost, we are living in an informationized era wherein it is seen with a very big lens and then with a lot of concern. So if you ask me what are the lessons, how is the bone density loss that is going to affect, the kind of zero gravity situations that there are in, the muscles behave very differently. They would have lost a lot of muscle memory. It would, in fact, I've been given to understand that they wouldn't even be able to walk properly with the proper orientation. They have to do a lot of acclimatization when they come back to Earth. Muscle atrophy, as they call it as, and then these things will, help probably address some of the medical issues that we face on, probably finding solutions to this. It could help solve a lot of problems that are there on Earth already, because space is a direct contributor to a lot of aspects of our life. Then fluid redistribution, because if you have a prolonged exposure to an organic life in space, the entire fluid that is the basis for life to sustain, there's a lot of bloody fluids which shifts upwards and downwards, and probably the impact of that in organs, that can be studied. We can actually see that in the kind of facial puffiness that we see in their photographs, and their increased the varied behavior of the different organisms. The most important part is the psychological and the mental health impact. What kind of a psychological impact? Of course, they have been trained and all these things are there, but then isolation and confinement in space just with two people, thank God there was some companionship for both of them. But then what kind of a psychological and mental impact this kind of an isolation has happened? What is the cognitive performance of brain that it has undergone by virtue of staying there for such long time? And then has there been any kind of irritation that people develop? These are things we wouldn't know right now, but then probably when they come, when they are tested for all these conditions, that they will know. Most important part is, what is the impact of human performance and workload management? Has their performance been the same during the first initial part, the mid-segment part, and the later part? How much of physical and mental fatigue have they undergone? The adaptation, has there been any irreversible change in any of their parameters? That needs to be seen. So, these are a lot of lessons that we will get to learn, because they are going to come up with, they are going to be a laboratory in themselves, a living laboratory in themselves. It could benefit humanity to a great extent. And then hopefully this will lead to a lot of technological and medical advancements. That's what I hope to. And most important, what is the effect of radiation exposure? Because they have lived outside the closed ecosystem of the Earth. What kind of changes have that brought into? These are some of the things that I would definitely say will be key learnings, and of course not to leave the importance of building redundancies in the system. Thank you.
And Group Captain Shah, obviously great points there by Wing Commander Sudhakaran. The fact of the matter is that in every calamity there is a lesson to be learned, but the fact of the matter is that India and China too seem to be prepping up for having their own space stations in the future as well. This could be a beginning of a learning exercise that India has been trying to explore for a very, very long time. But this is also something positive, that sustainability in space is possible, and that is something that a lot of countries, including India, who are aspiring to be big in space, should focus on.
Well, we need to be very frank about the effects of space living onto the human being has been studied at vast of the depth. People have stayed in space almost about 2 years at a stretch. So both short time as well as long time effects of the microgravity in space, that is of course there. But the effects of isolation, what Sudhakaran was trying to mention, usually there is you are of course isolated from your family, but in the space station right now there are the crew of about 6 there, so they are in company. That's what I had told you, that there are already plenty of tasks that people are doing there. These two have added up there, shared some of the responsibility of the crew who were performing those tests, trials, and the experimentation that was going on there. So that is one aspect. Secondly, look, when you go out of the atmosphere, you are fully dependent onto the EC and LSS, environmental control and life support system. It's absolutely automated. You don't even want a single ml of gas to leak out to the exterior, because that you have to again carry from Earth. So the oxygen becomes absolute vital. The atmospheric pressure within the ISS, they maintain normobaric. That means 14.7 psi that we have here at 1 atmosphere, what we have here on the terrestrial living conditions. Same is there. With every breath, oxygen keeps depleting, so that has to be replaced, automated. With every breath, carbon dioxide builds up into the system, so that has to be removed. Water vapor goes into the system, that has to be removed. So like this, for entire environment of the space living, that is one. Secondly, when they are in the International Space Station, there are plenty of activity which happens outside the space station. So that is what they do, the spacewalking. They come out of the space station and then they have that EMU, extra environmental living unit. So with that, they come out and then they perform the tasks that they have to do and keep on adding up various systems. Today, it's a huge body, International Space Station today, like 2 football grounds worth of stretch that it has got. So all those things are there. Medical conditions we already know. The one thing that happens is, your sleep rhythm is gone. Here we have 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of the night, by and large. That doesn't happen in the space. In the space, you have 45 minutes of the dark phase and 45 minutes of the light phase. The sun is ever there. Every 45 minutes, there is sunrise. So people have to get used to there are 4 compartmental stations within the International Space Station, where the light condition is made so that you feel as if you are in the night conditions. Lights are dimmed and all those things are taken care of. So they do sleep, but that sleep is slightly disturbed because their work and rest schedule is not like Earth. The circadian period of 12 hours or 24 hours is no longer there. So that is one thing that happens. Psychological system, of course, is there. One more thing I must tell you, that there is one emergency unit of the crew system which can at any given time, for an emergency, that can be decoupled from there, and that can come back to the Earth at any given time. But that the rider is that there should be emergency, medical emergency. That is only meant for the medical emergency. So Sunita, Williams and Wilmore, they didn't qualify to be put into those categories. So they were fine. They were doing job. They have earlier stayed for an extended period there. There was no problem. But one thing is very straightforward that you ask, what lesson we carry? Look, wherever there is, you are out of the atmosphere, space exploration, right now they are in the LEO, they could be tomorrow at the moon surface, or it could be the deep space exploration. So under those conditions, there should be a circumstance. Look, life is not to be left without any support. You can't do that. But it is also a fact that when you go for the deep space exploration, you may not be in a position to come back from the midway. So like if you go to Mars tomorrow, Mars journey is about 6 months or so right now. So if you have already traveled, say 2 months or 2.5 months, you can't come back halfway from there. If something goes wrong, that you can't stay, it's just unfortunate that it happens. So those things which is not in your hand, that is something different. But redundancy, as it is always planned that there is a first level of redundancy, there is a second level of redundancy at the level of the system, at the level of subsystem. Even in the mission planning, we have got the plan 1, plan A, plan B, plan C, all those things happen. So that is there. Secondly, every crew is trained into the first aid and the medical aid by all means. There are certain amount of medical gadgets that is at the International Space Station. They themselves are supposed to work out the way it is there. Of course, there is a assistance from the ground station that they are told that okay, they are getting the picture or they are getting the frame, they are getting the echo, 2D echo there or not. So all those things are being directed, but they have to do among themselves. Certain of the even medical procedures or surgical procedures, someone gets hurt, no surgeon can go from here to do this. So those part of stitching and things like that, that has to be done by all of them. They are trained onto that. So the ABC of the first aid that they have to, all of them, they are taught here at the ground itself. They have to do this. Psychological field is another area where you are away from your near and dear, and you can't do anything. Like Sunita Williams, they had gone for 8 days, now it is 9 months. You can't do anything about
All right,
it.
sir.
You are stuck there. You are stuck there. So those things, they are made.
Let me also rope in General Bhatt. We have completely run out of time. I'm going to accommodate a last comment from General Bhatt as well, and then we're going to wrap up. General Bhatt.
So what is most important, and like you are saying, what are the lessons we learn from it, and what is there for us for future Indian space missions? So one thing definitely it brings to focus is that the Gaganyaan mission, which is going forward, has to cater for a very foolproof environmental crew life support system, which Group Captain Jha was talking about. Also, as you know, the first thing they've tested is a crew escape system. So we have to realize that putting a human being into space is very, very complex, and that is why ISRO is taking one step at a time. This itself ensures redundancy. It ensures safety for people who would be going into space from India in the future. And of course, everywhere, world over, for spacefaring missions, whenever they have sent humans to space, safety of humans has always been important. There have been accidents, but overall, the human life has been always considered very important.
All right. On that note, we're going to dip into a short break. Appreciate everybody who joined us and filled in on this important matter. We'll be right back.